If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is interested in the property market, then this, the UK Property Market Stats Show, is for you. My name is Chris Watkin, and each week I'm joined by a special guest. This week it is Ben Madden. We'll come to Ben in a second. Why should you watch this show? Well, the British are obsessed with the property market. Whenever something comes out with the land registry, it's front page news in the Times. Whenever the Halifax or Nationwide publish something, again, front page news. The British are obsessed with the property market. For those of you that have not watched the show before, I always say that the land registry is looking at sales that took place 9 or 10 months ago, and the Halifax and Nationwide are looking at sales that were agreed 2 or 3 months ago. We're looking at the house prices and the property market from last week. So if you want to know what's happening in the property market with the finger on the pulse, and there's a lot of stuff going around at the moment in the property market press, about what's happening in the Rachel Reeves and all that, then if you want the answer, watch this show. The show lasts approximately 1 hour. The first half looks at the UK property market, where myself and Ben will be analysing all the stuff like listings, price reductions, sales agreed, fall throughs, net sales, exchanges, house prices, and some rental stuff as well. And then the second half will be looking at a town or a city where we deep dive and really analyse and get underneath the skin of all the estate agents in that town to find out who is the best. This week we're going to the town of Woking. In the home counties, and we will be analysing all the agents there. Now, if you're not from Woking, you might find that particularly dull and boring. However, before you do switch off from that section of the show, we will be using a piece of kit which analyses the estate agents, a piece of kit that you're able to buy yourself, which analyses the estate agents. And if you suffer from overvaluing, or you suffer from cheap fee agents, and you are a better agent, this will analyse your stats. And if you are as good as you think you are, will prove independently that you are a better estate agent, which at the end of the day, in this crowded marketplace, is really, really tough. So if you're not from Woking, but you suffer from that, you might want to watch that element of the show and see if the piece of kit we use is for you. This week, I'm joined by Ben Madden, a regular on this show. Ben Madden is very well thought of in the industry. He used to be an estate agent in Brentford and then sold that and then set up Fine & Country in Chiswick in West London. He is a senior person within the Fine & Country network, runs his own property blog and his own estate agency mental health program as well. He's extremely well thought of and he's an all-round decent bloke. Ben, thanks for joining us today on the show.
Thank you. As always, my favourite 30 seconds of a 6-week window before I'm back. Thanks, mate. That was really nice.
Bless you, bless you. So without further ado, let's go and have a look at those stats on the UK property market. So here we go. Ben, can you see the stat on the graphs? Everything?
I certainly can, yes.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Right, okay, so hold on a second. We'll just sort out the screens. And here we go. Oh, hold on. I lost it. Oh, there we are. There it is. So what happens here, ladies and gentlemen, is this. I spend 30 seconds going through the stats and then Ben looks at it. Ben, you're one of the people that don't actually look at the stats. So you're fresh to this, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I like to see it hot off the press with you live.
Excellent. Good stuff. This week, we listed 35,265 properties. We are in week 38 of the year. So we are comparing week 38 with all the other week 38s. And you can see there that obviously 2020 was the crazy year of when properties were coming on the market after COVID. So that's the spike. So overall in there, not bad at all. The average price of a property coming on the market is 436,991. Cumulative year to date in terms of listings, 1.377 million, which is 2.6% ahead of last year and 10.5% ahead of the overall 9-year average. And this graph here, the white line shows us on a week by week basis. The white line is 25, the blue line is 24, and you can see the other colors on the graph. And just before we start, ladies and gentlemen, all these graphs are available to download on YouTube if you go to YouTube and look in the description, scroll to the bottom and you'll see the graphs that are downloadable. Anyone can use these graphs internally and also at valuations. What I do ask is that if you are wanting to publish them on social media, that you ask my permission. And the reason and just send me a message. The reason I say that is that my daytime job is that I'm a ghostwriter writing local property market content for estate agents. And if I haven't got a client in your town, I'm more than happy for you to use them. But if you do have a client, then obviously there's a conflict of interest there. So if you could just even send me a text message, my telephone number is 07950 147572. Okay, Ben, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I mean, look, I like to see the volume of instructions we're dealing with. What I found really interesting, I think, is the social media chatter about the volume of properties available, and people saying is there some potential oversupply? And what you're showing here is not a potential oversupply. It's the numbers are marginally up on last year, only 10% up on a 9-year average, which includes 2020 when the market was shut for 3 months. So I think from a stock perspective, we're in very good shape for positivity. And huge opportunity for agencies to have, subject to how the next couple of months goes with the budget. Could be a good end to the year, could be a great 2026. Stock wise, yeah, for me, very positive.
Okay, so this particular graph here shows you the number of properties that are for sale. Now, we are filming this on Wednesday, the 1st of October, and I don't get my stats through for a couple of days. So you won't see the September figures until the next show. However, I do have anecdotal evidence because it's running a few days in a behind, and there's nothing weird about the September numbers. You can see here that all the turquoise lines are the stock of properties that were on the market going from the 31st of August into the 1st of September. So next week we'll have the 30th of September going into the 1st of October stock levels. And you can see here that, yes, stock levels are higher than they were in 21, and they are slightly higher than they were in 17, 18 or 19, but they are not at the 1.3 million range that we had in 2007 and 8, or 2008, where we had an oversupply. And interestingly, just whilst we talk about this, is that withdrawal levels, again, whilst we are putting onto the market approximately 110,000 properties a month in the UK, we are actually withdrawing around 60,000 properties a month, which is a lot. It's a big
Chris,
number.
but so of the 110,000 that are coming on,
Yes,
60,000 coming off. So something like 65%. Of that 60,000 off, how many contribute to next month's 110,000 coming back on the market?
right. Okay, so I've got one stat that doesn't answer it, but might answer it in a slightly different way. If you don't, okay, and I can't go hunting for it in a show or press that. But
Sure.
what I do know is this, right? Is that of all the properties that sell. And this is just sole agency. So again, this is not going to be so much in London because you do have a little bit of multi-agency in London. Mm. But London is not the be all and end all of the market. But in outside London, most of it's sole agency. Only 6.1% of homes that sell with the second agent.
Yeah, that is just such a wild stat to me because we discussed this a lot, and in our current business, in our old business, we built up a first choice agent proposition, which allowed us to list and sell homes new to market. Our current business, we do a lot of secondhand stock selling, and our success rate is pretty high, actually. We take stuff on. I think we give it a new lease of life, maybe look at a different strategy, some new marketing, and we get that stuff sold. So for that number to be so low is...
let me.
Really interesting.
Well, again, I've done some homework, and this is anecdotal, but that number does rise as you go north. And what you've got to remember, and again, a very good friend of mine, Alan Batt from Wigan, he says, 30% of my sales, or was it 25%, something like that, come from secondhand sales. And the thing is this, number one, the vast majority of UK estate agents do not have a system to pick up secondhand stock.
Mhm.
Okay. Or more importantly, have a system that actually works. Now, if you're sending out Spectre letters, or those awful handwritten um, compliment slips that says "Give me a call about your property," they don't work. You actually, you actually have, just sending a crap letter out does not get you the right or the opportunity, and no one's going to call you on that. Yes, of course, if you throw enough of it at the wall, some of it will stick. But there's touting and there's touting. And there's a huge difference between touting that works and touting that doesn't work. And the vast majority of estate agents don't tout, and when they do tout, they do crap touting. When in reality, the thing is, Ben, is, and I don't say this lightly, you are one of the best estate agents in the UK. And ladies and gentlemen, he is, because I'm not, I get I'm very privileged to talk to a lot of people. And we believe that our competitors are nearly as good as us. Of course, we believe we're better. But, if you're up there, you think your competitors are there, but in reality, they're down there.
Yeah, I mean, it's an eye opener, isn't it? Because you sort of so let me give you a really quick story. I've just started mentoring someone who through Agents Together, and new mentee, and he's been with a particular brand for 18 months, and he's really, really struggling, and he's not generating opportunities, and he describes himself as a very good estate agent, but not very good at the business side. And so I press him a little bit on that. What does that mean? And what he really means is I think he believes he's persuasive, and that's what he thinks estate agency is, but he's not very good at creating opportunities to list homes, so he can't get himself on the sofa. So I said, just to clarify, that is estate agency 101. That doesn't mean you're not good at the business side. That means that's the estate agency side you need to focus on. And the brand he works for, he thought we could give him a lot more support and a lot more structure about how to go out and win business or generate opportunities to win business. And so for 18 months, he's really, really struggled. So I set him a task just the next day. I said, if you do this, I can guarantee you, I'll show you how to get results in 24 hours. And then I want you to do it every day for 6 months. And in 6 months, you'll have one of the best businesses in your brand. And the really simple task was I want you to pick a road where there's good activity year on year, there's transactions, where there's been a completion or exchange in the last month. Doesn't have to be yours because you're not doing any business. So you can't talk about your own success. Just knock on the door, introduce yourself. I'm new to the area. I'm building my business locally. I just want to let you know, number 13 is just exchanged, just completed. That sale has now impacted the price and the value of your home. I'm giving free up-to-date valuations. Would you like any? He got 3 in a single day. If you get 3 within a month, one is going to think about having a little go. So if you do that every day, in 6 months, you're miles ahead of everyone. Now, unfortunately, that was last week. I don't think he's going to do it every day, which is such a shame because it's a bit of sweat equity. It's tough. It's challenging. But anyone listening to this will think, oh, God, knocking on doors. When you're knocking on doors, giving a free valuation and not selling to people, people don't tell you to go away. They're not aggressive. They're not unpleasant. It's just a free service. People want to stand and have a chat. They're bored at home. They want to talk to you. They'll give you all the information you want to hear. I can't stress it enough. If you're willing to do it, that one activity alone will build your business.
You're so right, because it's the intent behind the door knock. The intent is to help and to give, not to get.
Yeah.
Okay. So simple. But again, it's like anything. Is that we all want something in this world quickly, don't we? And if you are a 20-something estate agent and you want to win at this game of estate agency, the thing that you have on your side is youth. What you don't have is, which comes from experience, is the ability, is hard work, but the killer one is patience. And you need them in equal amounts. Equal amounts. It's like me doing the sofa chats after 2 years. The wife, because it cost me money to do the sofa chats, the wife rightly said, have we had our money back? I said, we haven't even scratched the surface. It's anyway. But look
It's
where
a
we
long
are.
play.
Of course it is. The shortcut, ladies and gentlemen, is a long game. Anyway, let's get back to the stats because I'm sure no one wants to listen to our ramblings of a middle-aged man and a chubby lad from Grantham. Right. Okay. So let's get back to the. We got back to the graphs. We've only done the first
We're
level.
on the graphs.
There you go. Right. Let's now look at price reductions. Again, these are the August figures. We are waiting for the stats to come through for September. But again, let's just remind ourselves: 25,000 price reductions, which looks okay. The average price of a property being reduced is 417,875. But this is the bit that really scares me, and I've mentioned this a few times, Ben, in the last few weeks, and I want to mention it to you, is this. This is the percentage of homes that you have on your books that you are reducing, okay? And it shocked, and I only realized this a few weeks ago, is this. The proportion of houses that we're reducing drops off the face of the earth after August. So here we go. In July, and June, July, this is 23. We're reducing 14% of the stock, and then as you go through September, October, and November, we are only reducing not 1 in 6 houses, but down here nearly 1 in 19 houses. Why are we so rubbish? And it happens definitely in Q4. You can't, okay, you're not going to reduce anything in December. Okay, fair goes. It's Christmas period. But it's like price reductions don't exist from Q3, from the middle of Q3 onwards. Why?
I would guess that it's because so much new stuff comes to the market and the marketing strategy is not updated within 3 weeks of going live. So a property comes to the market. If we get the price wrong, we need to fix it within 2 to 3 weeks. But that requires a very challenging conversation. And I imagine that most don't want to have that very challenging conversation. And so they hold out until January.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to text me, I've got 2 fantastic scripts to how to get a price reduction, and the art is to remove the emotion out of the conversation. Then you can go for the logical kill. It does work really, really well. Just text me the price reductions to my mobile 07950 147 572. I'll text you it back. I'll never ring you again unless you ring me. Right. Okay. So again, interestingly, Rob Smith or Toby Phillips, both from Property Franchise Group last week, both of them said they think everyone's focused on trying to get the exchanges through, which again, I find fascinating. You should be getting the exchanges, but you should be looking after your own stock. Do you know Q1 is always a really rubbish time for estate agents. Maybe if we actually got again, let's just look. Here we go. Here's the sales figures. You can see there is a general trend downwards. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that trend wouldn't be so low, wouldn't be so much of a drift if we did better at our price reductions in Q3.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's a little bit of a cop out that people are focusing on their exchanges because you're able to focus on more than one thing, and if you're focusing on the exchanges before the end of the year and not considering what business you're going to do next year. I mean, I appreciate there's instant gratification and people want to get their money through, but I just feel like that's surely someone in a branch structure is going to take responsibility for ensuring the listings that are new to market in the last 8 weeks are being sold, and we're not so heavily focused on exchanges that we can't do both.
Well, under the Estate Agents Act 1979, all valuers are not allowed to do their vendor management because they're only interested in putting houses on the market and the dopamine hit of winning them. Did you not see that's like, obviously that often gets missed. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm being cheeky and silly there, but honestly, one thing that again I bang on about constantly is this: why don't you, on the day of listing when you're putting the house on the market, why don't you book in a face-to-face appointment 3 or 4 weeks time?
Mm-hmm.
It's what happened.
Yeah, full review.
When leaders Romans are, but when Romans were like at their height in terms of when they were just, they hadn't, gone equity release. And they don't get me wrong, they're good now, but I'm talking about the old days when it was run by the old management, when
Dale, yeah.
they were like, oh my God, you used to poo your pants if you were against them. Pardon the swearing, ladies and gentlemen. Is that if the valuer had to book in a vendor visit at the listing 3 or 4 weeks time, you soon get accountability.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe, I think the vast majority of employed valuers, and if you disagree with me, put it into the comments. Obviously, as I said, not all, the vast majority of employed valuers see it beneath themselves to do vendor management. Anyway, let's go get a few comments. There's the gross sales year to date. So we are on, oh my word, the Doommongers are going to be disappointed. 25,026. Last week it was 25,300. The week before that, 25,500. The week before that, 24,800. Okay. There it is. I mean, year to date, 993,000 properties sale agreed. These are secondhand, not new homes, which is 5.6% ahead of last year and 13.4% ahead of the 17, 18 and 19. The average price of a property selling, this is the asking price, is £370,000. And there's the graph. So we're just a couple of thousand below what we had at the in week 38. Just to give you an idea, Ben, we were at 25,026, and last year at the same time we were at 26,400. Okay, so it's not it's not bad at all. Okay, not bad at all. And look how far we are ahead of 17, 18 and 19, and then 23 was the killer year. And I haven't even put 22 on because it really fell off the face of the earth. Although you will see that, ladies and gentlemen, on the net sales. That's not bad, is it?
It's not bad at all. It's positive. Yeah. I mean, I feel quite removed from the general housing market because we're based in West London and we work the top end of the market. And so I don't, the mass market behaves slightly differently. But I do see, and I said this right at the start of the show, sort of differing opinions. So I saw somebody posted yesterday saying it feels very flat, the toughest market they've worked in, which always makes me laugh because it means they haven't maybe been in agency for that long if this is the toughest market they've ever worked in. But then some people's feedback was aligned. Others were saying they're having the best time they've ever had. So I do find it because the numbers that you've just displayed, things look pretty rosy.
Yeah, well, interestingly, and I'm filming this, as I said, on Wednesday the 1st. This is a post which goes live. It's not live yet in now, but it will be live by the time this show comes out. And I just want to share with. So this is coming out on Wednesday the 1st of October, Ben. And let me just share this. Let me just share the screen. Hold on. There we go. And I'm going to share. And here we go. Is a lot of people who were making the noise seem to have come from London. So what I did is I looked at Inner London, and Inner London, ladies and gentlemen, is N, NW, E, SE, SW, W, and the two city centres, WC and EC. And I basically compared January to July for London versus the rest of the UK. Okay. And the bottom line is that London has been affected in July and August. So here we go. So your sales agreed to listings ratio is down 6.4, which that's for every 10 houses that you put on the market, how many you're selling. And London has slipped, but not massively, by 6.4, whilst the rest of the UK is up by 0.9. So it's a difference, but it's not a huge difference. The sales agreed in terms of pure numbers, 19% down in London, and in the UK, 6.3. And what I then did is I then looked at the previous summers for the last 6 years to see if it does London do anything different to the rest of the UK. And London does do things slightly different in the summer. So last year, the rest of the UK in July and August dropped by 1%. And in London, it dropped by about 12, 11 or 12%.
Okay.
So therefore, overall, if you think about it, if you look at the net effects, the market in July and August for sales agreed per week is about 6% less than it was last year. And if you look at last year's stats, you will see that is the case. Okay. But we are way ahead of the 17, 18, and 19 figures. I've also done some analysis, which I'll be releasing this week, looking at the £1 million market in London, the post £1 million market versus the £1 million market for the rest of the UK. And the numbers are very, very similar. Prime's a bit all over the place, but the numbers are so small that it's going to be spiky.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, yes, things have just toughened up a bit in London with the million market, but outside London, it's like nothing's happened.
Interesting.
Okay, so look at that. Look, there you go. Look at that. Oh, that's AI. You wouldn't know.
Handsome devil.
Oh dear, never mind. Right. Okay. So I think we're all very guilty of reading headlines. And if we're at, the amount of times, Ben, that I've had a client who's saying the market's rubbish, and then I go onto their town stats and can see that they've just had a tough month for sales.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And I
Yeah.
think we're all very guilty of looking at the market through our own lenses, which is the only lenses we have. And that's the benefit of this show, is that you can actually see what's happening because we do judge the market on our own experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. People are portraying their opinion as fact.
Let's just remind
They-
ourselves, let's move back. Okay, so the average price of a property coming onto the market is the red line, and the turquoise line is the average asking price of a property going sale agreed. We always have those yellow spikes are the London spikes. And again, that happens on a regular basis. So, like I said, the sales ratio in London does drop because everyone drops their houses on the market in the first 2 weeks of September. So some of that is reflected in that. It's whether it's like the tide. You're not. There's always going to be a gap between London and the UK. It's where the tide goes, but the gap always seems to remain the same. Interesting. Right. Move on. So that shows you the turquoise is the average asking price of a property going sale agreed, and the pinky line, the pink one, shows you the average asking price of a property coming onto the market in standalone week 38. And that is it in the last 3 and a bit years. Okay. And the percentage difference, 18%, which is coming more in line with the long-term average of 16 to 17%. Resi sell-through rate. What percentage of your sales pipeline, no, what percentage of your resi stock did you sell? Again, this is the August figures. We'll be getting the September figures in the next show. And we only shifted 14.54% of the houses, which is in line with the long-term trend. So again, stock levels are higher. If you recall, let's go back. Stock levels are higher than 17 or 18 or 19, but we are selling the same percentage of homes. Let's just remind ourselves. So in August, 55.5% of the homes that left estate agents' books exchanged, the other 44.5 withdrew. And again, I say this in most shows. I find it fascinating that back in 21, everyone thought 100% of houses were actually shifting. No, they weren't. It was up in the 70s. There were still houses withdrawing. Funny that. And again, there's a nice graph. The red line are the exchanges, and the yellow line is the withdrawals. And again, it's just a high withdrawal rate. That's what's key. That is savior is the wrong word. This means that we haven't got an oversupply of properties. If those are sticking on, but again, just think what we could do if we actually price them right. We'd actually get more sales, wouldn't we? Who knows? I don't know. What do I know, Ben? Jump in at any time. I'll keep talking till you tell me.
So I've got this idea, this concept, right? And let's run it by you because I haven't spoken to you about it. So I think the reason the overpricing is able to be an ongoing issue and cause so many problems for so many people is because of contract lengths. So to give you an example, very, very, very large estate agency in London is now rolling out 6-month contracts for new listings to market.
What were they?
And 12 week. Well, I mean, traditionally, I think of contracts in London as being 12 weeks, and they're increasing gradually. And now we've got this particular business has multiple brands that cover London, and they're now quite often we're hearing they're trying to get us to sign a 6-month contract, which is just wild, just insane. But they've also got a reputation for overpricing and then chipping away at the price. And 6 months is a long enough time to get to a sellable price. So, having had lots and lots of conversations with really good agents about why this happens, the general sentiment is the problem with the market. So I think we discussed this in the past. In London, 2 out of 3 homes that come to market don't even sell, which is just insane. That's bonkers. And it's got to be to do with them coming on at the wrong price. I'm certain of that. So what would happen if it was law, which I know is a big step, big jump, if it was law that a contract could only be a maximum of 4 weeks with a 7-day notice period after that? Does that crush an agency's ability to overvalue? Because in 4 weeks they're going to go to another agent and get the true price.
It would certainly help.
Because I'm genuinely having this conversation. I've had it with 6 or 7 people in the last few weeks because I think this could clean up so much.
A long sole agency contract facilitates overvaluing. I think there's a number of people about overvaluing who have a responsibility. Okay, the first responsibility and most important responsibility is the owners of the business that they, the old adage, if you don't have it, you can't sell it. And I think estate agents are really poor at marketing themselves, trying to attract people to you. So therefore, if you just pile it high, get them on the market, some of them will sell. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I was talking to a very large regional player who I know the boss man, and you talk to the valuers, and there's 4 levels of between the two. And what he says about overvaluing and what the valuers are being told, something's getting lost in conversation between the hierarchy. Okay, don't overvalue, don't do this, and then their area managers saying get it on at any old price. So what's happening in that chain?
Enumeration. That's what's happening in that chain.
Okay, so listings, bonuses, hitting KPIs, price reduction bonuses. Absolutely scary. So there's responsibility there. There's also a responsibility of other agents to use. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be going to Woking in a minute, and there is some stats here that prove if the estate agent is overvaluing or not. Now, then, how do you then portray that in your marketing and on the pitch to get that across? Again, by training and development. If you go in and say, they overvalue, and here's some stats, they won't work. You have to do it in a sales psychology way where you get them emotionally bought in first. By the best way is to tell a story of someone who's been hurt by overvaluing, then hit them with the science of the overvaluing stats. That's how but again, training and development. We don't train and develop our teams. I cannot believe that there are 14,500 estate agency firms, and I challenge anyone to name me more than 10 estate agency trainers to go between them. We don't train our staff, and don't even get to the old dusty manual that you got from Connells or Countrywide or Halifax 20 years ago don't count. Training development, so important. We're in a people business, but then also vendors need to take some responsibility as well. Vendor, they don't get waylaid by fancy figures. How many times does a home have you heard XYZ gave me this? They're not giving you anything. But ultimately, it comes to us as estate agents. You can't control what your competitors are doing, but what you can control is the way you sell it. So, estate agents have 3 problems, and you can't solve problem 3 until you've solved problem 2, and you can't solve problem 2 until you've solved problem 1. Problem 1, getting called out to the vowel. If you're not being called out to the val, none of it doesn't matter. If you're called out to the val and you're losing it to someone else because of overvaluing and cheap fees, then all of that can be countered if you've been trained and developed in it and using sales psychology and using stats and other reasons. And if you're not train them, then train yourself. Again, watch this show. We're going to be showing you how to do that. I'll text you how to get price reductions. I've already given that in the show. And then the third one is if you get it on the market but you can't sell it, that's the third problem. But again, that comes down to great marketing, great reductions, working the stock. It ain't hard. Anyway, let me get back off my soapbox.
Sorry. You were just the point on training. This is
That's it. That's what that is. Ultimately, we are in control of it. And it's down to the training and development of our team. Sorry, I've jumped in. Go.
So I help with Women in Estate Agency, and they provide really heavily subsidised training. And there's a session this week. The cost of training delivered by Claire Yates and Joe Bourne, full day. You're at Rightmove head office. It's a whole day's training. It's open to any woman to join. The entire cost was £99. That is just exceptional value, and yet I don't think the session sold out. I think there were a couple of spaces still left, which just screams we just don't take it seriously. Like, this is such a good opportunity. For the sake of £100, you should be ripping their arm off for that. And like you said, there's 14,000 firms. There's probably 20,000 people that work in the industry. There were 30 spaces, I think, available, and there was a couple left, which is just mad to me. But yeah, I think at the top, they take more responsibility for getting people onto these courses.
And the 6,000 women in that stage Facebook group, so it's not as if they weren't aware of it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there is an argument to be said we could be doing more from an awareness perspective, but it's just, I think, a really good example that if I see training offered for someone in my team and it's only going to cost £100 and it's two great trainers, it's going to be a full day event, I'm going to rip your arm off. How many spaces can I take? We had a training session yesterday with Julian Adele, who great trainer, really nice guy, really good session. I'd love to be in a position where we could just be paying £100 a head. But anyway, that's me done. Crowbarred in a bit of Women in Estate Agency there. Good work, Ben.
And a bit of agents together as well. Right, let's move on. Fall throughs. So this week we have had, pull it up, 6,149 properties that have fallen through off a sales pipeline of 510,000. The pipelines are looking good. And again, yeah, it's taking 19 weeks to get a sale through. It was taking 19 weeks before COVID. So the pipelines are good. It's getting the things through. Let's move on. The fall through rate, 24.57, which is slightly above the long-term 9-year average of 24.2. There's the fall through rate, as I said, going back to 22. And there is the actual numbers. And again, you can see a general trend. And the red line is slightly upwards. But again, let's remind ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, that the pipeline's up. So therefore, a better stat is this one, which is what percentage of your sales pipeline falls through every month. And back in August, it was 5%. So again, we'll wait for the September figures to come through, and that'll be showing next week. So again, not bad at all, but still 24% of sales that fall through, still not good. You can get that down to single digits. Instruct the solicitor on listing, and a massive fan of reservation agreements. Net sales, let's move on, 18,877, which, as I said, you can see the white line there. We are trending slightly below 24 figures, but remember, sales were slightly higher last year. Okay, if you recall, I mentioned that earlier in the show. Year to date, 757,471 net sales. So that's 4.8% higher than last year and 10%, although that gap is narrowing each week. So therefore, if you roll the clock back to a month ago, that gap was about 5.5. So that gap will narrow slightly because the net sales last year, which is the yellow line, was slightly higher. Okay. Price changes as a percentage of listings and gross sales as a percentage of listings. We've already done the exchanges, chances of sale. These are two of your favorite graphs. This shows you the number of properties for sales on your books and the number of properties for sold to contract in your sales pipeline. And again, that goes back to 17. That's a proportional and that's actual. I know you like those graphs yourself, Ben, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and I think positive trend line actually there.
Yeah.
Only marginal, but it's
Yep.
shifting. Yeah.
I just love the cyclical nature of the UK property market. You know, you can almost, and again, we'll update these the next week, but the yellow line is the pound per square foot figure at said agreed. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know what the land registry is going to say in 5 months' time, you follow that yellow line in real time because that has a correlation of 98% to the land registry figure in 5 months' time. So you can see here that generally the property market in terms of house prices has been pretty static here or there or thereabouts since 22. Okay. Really interesting. Really, really interesting. Any thoughts? Any final thoughts before we go to Woking?
No, I mean, I think we've talked about people and agents spewing out rhetoric that's a reflection of how they're performing month on month. All I would say is if you feel fairly neutral or actually you're positive and you're seeing negativity, then this show should just give you the clarity to stick to your guns and continue with the positivity because there's clearly business being done. And let's maintain that. Let's not allow ourselves to be the industry that talks itself into negativity. Let's be better than that.
That's so right. Right. Okay. Without further ado, let's move over to the second part of the show where we go to Woking. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we are using a piece of kit called Insight. Insight is a platform from 20EA. 20EA have a number of platforms doing various different things. Insights is their one with property data. For those of you who have not seen this before, Insight is like Rightmove Plus on steroids. We're strapped to a rocket with lasers and glitter balls. It is truly amazing. An awful lot of estate agents have it. A lot of the bigger firms have it. And it is, pardon the pun, really, really insightful in terms of looking at your data. And it, as I said, is like Rightmove Plus, but it goes back 5 years plus the year we're in. And it also analyzes the data in a lot more detail. Okay. And I can assure you the only pie charts that you'll see in all this is this little icon here. So without further ado, let's go and have a look at Woking. And now the way we do this, ladies and gentlemen, is I will just keep talking and Ben, you just cut across whenever you see something you like the look of. We'll just carry on talking like we always do. So for the purposes of this, we are not looking at new builds, okay? And the postcodes that we are looking at is GU21 all the way through to GU24. Just so you're aware, you can look at postcode sectors as well, if just so you're aware how good the stuff is. And also you can change property types here as well, again, and you can change for new instructions, exchanges, fall throughs. The data is just simply amazing. How accurate is the data? I have cross-referenced this against some very large firms who are PLCs who publish their stats, and I've cross-referenced it against many smaller firms, and I would say that this is at least 95% perfect and probably knocking on the door of nearly 98%. There's always going to be anomalies, and if you've got any issues with the data, please contact 20EA, ask for the Insights team. And there's always might be one or two, but fundamentally, it is trusted by just about every single large firm in the UK. You are able to buy this bit of kit yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Do not mention my name because I'm not on commission, although I should be mentioned, but I'm not on commission. And there is a free version where you can have the last 3 months data free of charge, or I believe like a premium version. Then you can have like a town version where you have up to 10 postcode districts. There's a regional version and there is a national version. I believe that the cost of the town is probably the cost of, say, a family of 4 going to Prezzo for a very nice evening, but nothing boozy at all. So I think it's damn good value for money. Of course, I would say that. I must stress to you, I've not been paid to do this, to market it. You're not to mention my name, but I am a huge fan of it. And we use this data from this platform, the national stuff, for the first part of the show. So without further ado, let us crack on. So there's been 16,226 properties that come onto the market since the 1st of January 2020 with an average price of 642. So when we go down the list, we can see which agents they are and see where they are on the pecking order of it. So without further ado, and again, this is just amazing. Look at Seymour's, mate. Look at
That is insane. That is absolutely wild. Firstly, I didn't realize Woking would have such a high average price point. And for them to have 42% is, in our old business, we had a similar sort of market share in a tiny little town. And we were ecstatic with that. And I know how, what that looks like from a business and a commercial perspective and how much fun that is. Seymour's just must be having it off every week. It must just be absolute party town in that business.
Let's just have a look at the size of Woking, because the population in 2021, 103,900. So that means that's households. Normally, if you want to know the households, you divide the population by about 2.2, which means that you've probably got about 44,000 households.
And
I've never seen that.
Is property count? Is that the number of listings they've brought to market in the time period you've stipulated? So far this
since
January 1st. That's January 1st, 2020. So it's 5 years worth. Okay. Now, what out of interest? What is it for this year?
Yeah, since Jan 1st.
Yeah. Okay. Still holding their market share. 10 months, thousands, working on roughly 100 properties a month. 110. Yeah, good for them.
Now, I remember where I believe they have a number of branches in there, but again, I'm going to have to say, because ladies and gentlemen, this is the third year of doing this, we do it every single year, is that I know of many multiple branch networks that just because you have double the branches doesn't mean double in fact, normally it doesn't add that much.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, they do have some multiple branches, but that doesn't always equal success. No, I mean, I met the guy Zoe, I think that's his first name, at the Esters last year, and he's very impressive. And it takes a lot to impress me. Very impressive, and he was telling me again, as I said, Esther's few beers, a bit noisy. That's what I wasn't drinking, but I don't believe he was either. But anyway, just very noisy. Is he gets the fact that it's a people business? And again, I think we that's great systems, great people. Okay, right. We don't want to turn this into a Seymour's because they might, just because you're big doesn't mean you're successful. They might be really rubbish at getting the properties through to exchange, selling.
Wow, let's find out. I'm excited.
So Churchod's very spiky there, mate, don't you? Like feast and famine. Great month, bad month. Great month, bad month. That is very spiky. I wouldn't, for someone with that sort of market share of around the 10% mark, I wouldn't expect such a spiky, if they could level that out at, very, very strange. Let's go look at born estate agents. Okay. Well, there's growth in there from 2020 of around 6 or 7, and now they're looking at around the 8 or 9%. Yeah, not bad. Again, I've always been impressed with Bournes and their teams when I've ever spoken to them at events. Yeah, okay. 488. So they're at the they're probably more of a Tesco's as opposed to a Kirkard's, which is 680, which the average is 642. Seymour's 625. Again, let's just remind ourselves is that normally the agent with a lot of market share tends to fish in the lower to middle market. Not so much here with, okay, it's a little bit lower than the average, but not hugely. Let's go and look at foundations. Nice and steady. Chancellors. What's that one? Is that a Christmas spike? And with that looks like that might be a Boxing Day promotion. Waterfalls. Slight drifting downwards there. Oh, sorry. Finished in 23. So that looks like they've must have sold on to someone. Okay. Foxtons. Okay.
I didn't realise Foxtons would have been in Woking for 5 years. Interesting.
Leaders. I mean, if Foxtons, I don't know. Maybe could you just Google Foxtons, because sometimes if they take over another agency, they rebrand, they take over their feed because it was it's the same firm. Just have a look. Leaders.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, not a bit of growth there, but drop back down. Waterfords, Brandon's, Purple Bricks, Martin and Co, Vicaries, Manners, Wills and Smearden, Mint Homes. We've had a good August, guys and girls. Knight Frank. Okay, there you go. In Villages. We'll just do some of the posh ones. We'll go down.
Interesting. Apparently, they opened in Woking in 2006.
Okay, so right, so it is genuine. Now, again, I would have expected Foxtons to have been further up the run because they normally do. Okay, let's just have a quick look at the upper quartile. So let's go a million and just see who seems to be moving and the shaking in the million mark. Here we go. Again, Seymour's, okay. So let's go 2 million. That is the upper quartile because the other one was, okay, let's go 1.5 million. See if we're now moving and shaking. Have we got any changes? Wait for that to change. No, hold on, I should have put an extra zero on there. My apologies. There we go. Again, look at Seymour's.
Seymour's are unreal. This is just a phenomenal business.
I think they've got a prestige brand or whatever it's called, but 2 million. Wow. They're the mummies and the daddies, aren't they? Very impressive.
Yeah, I would love to. I'm going to check out, see how long they've been there. This is a phenomenal business.
As I said, do find Zoe. As I said, I've only met him once, and I was impressed. And the guy that runs, I believe it's kind of like a partnership franchise sort of operation. Seymour's is a number of branches run by a chap called Ian Marlowe. Again, very impressive chap. Where were we? Right, let's get rid of that. Let's just look at the last year, just see if there's anyone that's shaking and moving. Have we got like an EXP coming up?
So just while you're looking down there, Seymour's opened 2003. What did I say Foxtons were? 2006?
Yep.
Yeah. So they're only 3 years older, and look at the difference in market share. That is just insanely fantastic results.
I mean, look, there's Seymour's. Unfortunately, they've had a slightly poorer July because now they're only at, oh my word, 40, just over 40% market share when they had a better Jan and Feb at late 40s. Again, it's very, what I would say, ladies and gentlemen, it's always good to actually check out the long term. Always look long term, the trend, put a trend line through it. Again, really impressive. You can see why is there some dips there? Is that a December dip? Yeah. Is that a December dip? Yeah. So it looks like Seymour's probably just hang back a bit and put them all on the market the month later. That's what I'm saying. But again, remember, these are percentages. So not many stuff comes on the market in December. So take that with a slight pinch of salt. Right, let's move on. Stock levels. And you can see generally that's the level of stock. So Back in COVID, it was around 800 and now it's 1,170. Now, that is interesting, ladies and gentlemen, is that stock levels in the UK are about 60% higher. And I would actually say there that stock levels are in the order of around 40% higher. That's interesting. That stock levels have not grown as much as the UK average. What is interesting, mate, is that stock levels on the coast. I've said this a few weeks ago. Stock levels on the south coast in like Eastbourne, Hastings, and other towns like that are now up to levels seen in 2007, which are almost double what they are now. So yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing that the level of stock on the market today versus COVID levels is 300 or 400% higher. Nationally, it's 60 or 70% higher.
So sorry, on the south coast, Hastings and places you just listed, you're saying they have got the same level of stock as 2008 available on the market. And do you know what's driving that?
No,
Interesting.
anecdotally, you could say, did everyone buy and then everyone's getting out?
Well, yeah, I mean, so yeah, that's what your gut tells you, isn't it? The last few years they've moved down. Now they want to get back to somewhere with a decent Wi-Fi.
And a pret-a-manger on every corner.
Well, of course, of
Because you know
course,
what Londoners are like.
yeah, absolutely. That is interesting. I wonder if there's any you look at what's happening in Wales, for instance, with council tax. Anything like that is happening on the south coast. Second homeowner penalising, anything like that going on.
Again, don't know.
No, and you're right. That's really interesting. I'm going to do some digging on that because that is really interesting. I'm just a nosy sod.
Right, okay. Right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the competitive landscape screen. And just like Aussie Gold Hunters, there's an awful lot of rubbish in here in terms of data that's irrelevant. And there are some absolute golden nuggets in here. And the art here is to spot the gold nuggets. And I'm going to help you with that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Right. Okay. So we are looking at the whole market from 0 to 14 million, and we are looking at the dates between the 30th of September 24 and the 30th of September 2025. The order that we put these in is just by size of listings, but after that, it means nothing, right? What I want you to totally ignore new instruction, market share, sale agreed, and sale subject to contract. And I want you to ignore all this stuff off here a second. I just want you to focus totally on these four columns here. Now, what's happened here, ladies and gentlemen, is that they look at what has left your books in the last 12 months, because we've done 12 months here, it's 12 months in a day. And according to 20EA, let's just do Seymour's to start with. A total of 1,210 properties have left the Seymour's books with the postcodes that we've already mentioned, because it's 806 plus 404. So that is what's left your books, of which 806 have exchanged contracts and 404, or 33.39, have withdrawn unsold. So you've been paid on 806 and you've withdrawn 404 where you have been unpaid. The average in Woking is 55.34. And this is turning into a bit of a Seymour's fest here, mate.
It is, yeah. Fair play. Great business. Good for them. They should get this shout out. They deserve it.
So I'm looking at Foxtons and Leaders, and they're shifting 1 in 3 of the houses they list. Here. Chancellors are at 38. Foundations are at 50. The average is 55. Bournes are at 55, which again is the average. Kirkhods, never pronounce that, 58. And normally, Ben, the big volume agent suffers from a low number. If they are like a lower to middle agent, because they go for the volume, that can bump the number up. But we confirmed that Seymour's weren't a lower to middle agent; they were a middle agent average. Again, that's very impressive at 66. I mean, obviously Mint are at 68, well done, and Vicaries are at 70. But
so their average sale price, I think, was 625,000, roughly.
Yep.
and they've sold exchange on 806. They've sold 500,000,000 in the last year in property value. That's absolutely phenomenal in a single year.
And let me just again show you the power of data, ladies and gentlemen, is this. 66.61 divide. Let's use foundations as an example. A lot of people would say, well, there's a 16% difference, 16% difference. It's not. Using the power of maths is that proportionally, Seymour's can say you have a 31.6 because it's 66.61 divided by 50.6. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a property statistician. I use data to convert it into stats that enable you to get more listings. That's my daytime job. I don't do this for fun. Means that Seymour's can go in and say, Mrs. Miggins, if they found out you're up against foundations, you have a 31.6% greater chance of actually moving home with me. Now, what we've got to find out is are what they could be doing is undervaluing them and getting them away. But again, we've got to look at the screen next and see if that is the case. But there's some impressive numbers there, mate, isn't there?
Yeah, there are. There are some very impressive numbers. The Seymour show, you might have to rename Woking Seymour's just as a town. Just absolutely insane. Also, though, don't want to continue to highlight, but we've done a bit of a Seymour's versus Foxtons right up until now, and the difference in the exchange rate. Foxtons are almost at half of what Seymour's are able to do. It's just phenomenal.
Fall through rate on average is 29, so there's nothing there that screams, although there's some lot higher ones there. Okay, price changes. So Seymour's, right, over 52% of homes get reduced. Seymour's are at 50, Bourne's are at 62. So it looks like we have some, wow, look at that, 79, Foxtons are at 59. Mint, you don't reduce your prices. Okay, that's fine, as long as you price them right. But there's some big price changes. So what that's, we will look at the overvaluing stats in a second. Well, if Seymour's are slightly overvaluing, they're certainly getting their prices down. That is a sign of good vendor management. It is because their exchange ratio is so high.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah.
Okay. Average time to sell. Well, we're going to have a look at, we've got that stats there, but I've got another screen which looks at it in better detail. Let's go and look at the overvaluing stats. Right, here we go. Again, an awful lot of data here, ladies and gentlemen, and my skill is looking at the data and turning it into something that's really powerful. So what we're doing here, what Insights have done here is they've taken every exchange that you've done in the last 2 years. Okay, they put them in the order of new instructions because you have to put them in the order of new instructions. So the biggest ones are at the top, but after that, that's as far as it goes. And what they do is this, is step one is on the day of your property coming on the market, they date stamp that property with what they think the house is worth, their automated valuation model, a bit like a Valpal figure, but their own, okay? And on the ones that you exchange on only, not the ones that you don't exchange on, but on the ones that you exchange on average, Seymour's overvalued by 1.78. And you can go down that list. There's some obviously notable ones there. Chancellor's overvalued by 3.95, Foxton's 3.91. There's some low ones at Foundations at 0.68, Leaders at 0.55, and Mint at 0.29. There you go. Mint, really low price reductions. So again, if you don't overvalue, you're going to, right, next. How much do you get for the house? So therefore, they look at what the property eventually sold for on the land registry and compare that with the original asking price. So therefore, if we're looking at Seymour's, they overvalued by 1.78 and on average took an average of 4.49 off the original asking price. If we look at Foxtons, they overvalued by 3.91% and then on average got hammered 9.77%. So basically, the way you do that, if you want to, is you take that number away from that number, and that's your net figure. But people don't like percentages, and the homeowners are not very good with percentages. So therefore, if everyone put on a £700,000 house, what would everybody achieve for it? And here, look, Mint Homes don't overvalue, get 1.92% lower than the asking price, which means that if Mint Homes put a house on the market for 700,000, they would get 688. So if I was Mint, I can say, if you come on the market with me, I will get you £9,275 and 49 pence more than the average Woking estate agent. That's
Yeah, they're doing well.
okay. And then there are other agents. I will let the stats speak for themselves. But there are stats there, though there is a clearly defined. Okay, Chancellor's been quite lucky there, but there are some there where overvaluing. Let's just remind ourselves is this: if you are working your stock, 66.6 with high price range. Let's have a look at what Seymour's are doing. They are dropping their prices. They're slightly overvaluing, but that tells me they're slightly overcooking it, but getting the price down really quickly to get the property wave to exchange. That's what that stats say. Whilst you can see there are others who are quite clearly overvaluing, being clobbered on the price, and therefore getting, this 10, £20,000 difference.
Well, look, someone's there, 26,000, 27,000 difference there. A loss of 27,000. Who is that? Is that Savills? That is what, I mean, I guess they're talking higher end of the market, and so there's going to be slightly distorted. It's going to be the biggest.
Okay, yeah. The lower, you've got to take it with, as you go down the list, you have to take it with a slight pinch of salt because there's lower number of properties. And again, the posher agents are dealing with posher houses, so the AVM is going to be slightly not so brilliant.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you've got to take that with a pinch of salt. But there's some really, really, really interesting stuff here. And again, if you're being clobbered with by cheap fees, if you say, well, yes, it's going to cost you an extra £2,000 to use me, but here's proof that I will get you £6,000 more. So do you want to spend two to get six back? Because the net effect, the cheapest agent is not the one with the cheapest fee. It's the one that leaves you the most money in the pocket.
Absolutely.
Bang on. Right. Fascinating stuff there. Okay. Right. Okay. Let's have a look at how long it takes 76 days to find a buyer and 128 days to get a property from sale agreed to completion. Is there anyone that's selling their properties quickly? Foxtons seem to be selling, again, the ones that they seem to sell. They're not selling as many, but what they do sell. Okay. So again, idea with Foxtons, why don't you actually not be so overvaluing? You might get more houses on the market, sell them and be paid more. Let's look at Seymour's. They're taking 64 days, and we'll just whiz down here. You can see how long each agent is taking. Bournes were number 2, Foxton's leaders, Manners up there. Okay, let's move. Let's see how long it took to find a buyer. September 23 to September 24. 59 days. There you go. There you go. 76. Right, let's move on. And the final one is lettings. Let's see what's happening in the lettings games. Normally we look at open rent, ladies and gentlemen, and that's interesting. You see, ignoring COVID, market share for open rent in Woking was around 5%, and now she's hovering around the 11 or 12. Nationally, we're at 5% in 2020, and at the moment we're knocking on the door of 20. So what that's telling me is open rent are breaking into the Woking market, but not as much as the national figures. So who is moving and shaking? Because remember, the number of new instructions has a direct relationship by the stock you run. So let's have a look at Seymour's. Looks like they had a good 21, but there's been a drift downwards. Okay, but it's still impressive number of.
Very impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go and look at leaders. Okay. Manners. Bournes. Growth. We like that. Foxtons. Bit of growth. Martin and Co. Dropping. Sterling Ackroyd. Growth. Chancellors. Dropping. Foundations. Bit more over the place. These are going to be a bit more spiky now, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. We'll go down to 25 and you can all have a look. Again, the numbers are going to be quite small here, ladies and gentlemen, so you need to be taken with a slight pinch of salt. Okay, let's just do that. We're nearly finished. Let's just look at what average rent has been, what's happened to average rents. So in 2020, the average rent was 1,347, and so far this year it has been 1,968. So very in line with what's happened nationally, okay, with regard to rents. Okay, ladies and gentlemen of Woking, I hope you found that of interest. Seymour certainly are a powerhouse, and Seymour's, close your ears now because you don't need any help. If I know exactly what I would do to counter the Seymours, to start to eat into that. And if anyone would like, and that's nothing against Seymour's, because again, I think we need to get some t-shirts. Fanboy, should we get those?
Yeah, I'm ready to jump ship from everything I'm doing here and go work for Seymour's in Woking.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, hopefully you might get to see Zoe at the Estes. I don't know if he's going or not, but if you do, if I see him, as I said, I only met him once. Very nice chap. I'll put you guys together. But I know exactly what I would do to try and to beat them. I wouldn't play their own game. I'd play a different game because my daytime job, ladies and gentlemen, and I do it for over 120 agents around the UK with my team, is to attract landlords and vendors to your agency by using old school techniques with modern delivery methods. Yeah, because they are really that's a tough cookie, mate, on that one, isn't it?
Mm. Good for them, though.
And let's just say, very impressive numbers at Seymour. So well done. And again, mate, if you actually look at a lot of other Seymours, they're doing equally. A lot of them are doing equally as well. So they're one of the only big agents in the top 100 that have gone. Their market share has because I look at all big agents over the last 6 or 7 years, and most tend to stay in their lane. If they were 78th 2 years ago, they're 78th now, or nearest, damn it. So they must be doing something right. So well done, Ian Marlowe. I haven't seen him for years, actually, for leading the ship, and well done for team at Woking for doing that. Any other agents, if you want to give them a run for their money, then please do give me a call or send me a text message, and I will tell you free of charge what I would do. But that's going to be a tough old battle to do. Final thoughts from you, Ben?
I guess what I said earlier on, really. I think anyone watching this show who's listening to this, use the data that's just been provided. The housing market is in good shape. Stock levels are good. Under offer is good. Let's not allow a few people speaking negatively to pull everyone into that world.
Awesome as ever, Ben. You're damn good value for money. I will buy you a beverage at the Estes when I see you there in a few weeks' time. I look forward to seeing anyone that is going to the Estes. Please come and say hello. I've got the film crew and interviewing. Grab me. And who knows, I might want to put a microphone in front of you and interview at the Estes as well. Ben, thank you for your time today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week for week 39 of the UK Property Market Stat Show.